I'm sick of him.
And wake up, 5:02. It is going down on a beautiful Saturday morning here in the Ville. This is your boy, Raashaan Myers, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM, Big X Sports Radio. It is going down on a beautiful Saturday morning here, July 11, 2026. We are back in the building. So excited to be here. We have so many things to get into. Feels like it's been forever since I've been on the radio. We of course were off observing the 4th of July holiday last weekend, so it feels like it's been just a good little while since I was able to talk to you guys. But hey, we're back in the building. We have so much to get into, and you know what? I mean, what do we not have to talk about? University of Louisville put out in the last 2 weeks, we've had the University of Louisville basketball team put out a Cardinal commitment video. We had the announcement of U of L heading on a foreign trip. Of course, I have thoughts on that. U of L finally starts putting out some quality practice highlight type information. So that's going on. You have the NBA Summer League getting going. You have Louisville guys doing crazy things all over that. You had Team USA, U17 dominating in FIBA competition. You have, U of L commitments doing big things, as the July evaluation period starts. You have superstars going here and there and everywhere, in NBA free agency. There's so many things to talk about. There's so much basketball. All I've been doing is literally watching basketball and watching Summer League action. And let me tell you something. This class of 2026 is not playing with y'all, like, at all. And when I say, like, they are just doing everything, everywhere, to everybody, like, it's unreal. But I will say this, and I know I hate to be this person. I really do hate to be this person, but I can't lie to y'all. I won't say I'm glad that I don't have to come on here and give you full breakdown for soccer for this World Cup, but watching Team USA go out there and just kind of wet the bed and just kind of fall apart, I'll say this. I've never been one to just sit there and enjoy listening to a bunch of people and folks that never talk, soccer, which with this is just not a soccer nation. Like, people that play soccer, I know they get a little bit into it when it comes around, but for the most part, trying to inflict soccer conversation and commentary on everybody because I guess either you played a little bit or whatever. It's exhausting. And I'm not mad that it's over with. Like, I definitely, there's so few things that help me get through summer radio. And I am definitely thankful that I at least had something to keep me, I won't even say entertained. I didn't watch, outside of the Team USA games. I watched the Bosnia, the Team USA Bosnia game. I pretty much watched most of that out at my favorite watering hole. I didn't even watch really the Belgium game. That there was I believe that was the debut of Michael Brown. Was the same time. So I was watching the Nets Summer League game, and I just kind of flipped over to check the score of the Team USA game, and pretty much it was, USA gets down immediately. I did see them get the equalizer on the free kick, and then they basically just got blown out the rest of the time, looking like a scrub team in the round of 32, getting busted in not in the round 30, in the round of 64. They kind of look like a scrub team, a 2 seed beating a 15 or a 3 seed beating a 14. That's kind of what it looked like. So I didn't inflict any of that on myself. I just kind of would at least check back on it on my YouTube TV. But I'm just glad it's over with. Like USA, y'all just gotta understand, man. USA soccer is just what it is. Y'all need to quit trying to hype it up. If they make a Cinderella run one of these years, it will be absolutely luck. I am just willing to say that at this point. So just I listening to TK, listen to my boy Trevor Kelsey on the Mike Rutherford show. Try to just like he got so into it, and I'm like, I don't even know why you do this to yourself because you know that USA Soccer is not going to do anything. Those boys got out there against Belgium and looked like a little league team, but to each their own. It's whatever. You all can follow whatever you want. I'm not trying to shame you into it, but all I'm saying is you know what the outcome's going to be. These dudes are just not built for that level, and these other countries that make that where soccer is the be all end all, and their kids grow up wanting to do it, and they have great developmental systems and everything else. They're just not. This just not going to be that way. So just give it up, please. Please give it up. Just stop it. Stop it. But we have plenty to get into. I'm super, super excited. Of course, 502-414-1450. That is the Game Day Men's Health text line. Would love to hear from you about anything that's happening or anything that you hear this morning. We're going to get into a little bit of everything this morning. U of L basketball, of course, being the most primary just because they've put out the most news over the last couple of weeks. And I know that you guys have talked, have had, places and quality broadcasts that have brought up a little bit of that over the last, 10, 11, 12, 14 days. But, I want to give my thoughts about it just because I have kind of held those up and I kind of haven't talked about it much on social media just because I was saving it up for you guys here on Saturday morning. And whether you're watching this live or watching this on podcast, of course, you'll be able to go back and check me out on Twitter, X, at Raashaan, Raashaan. You can give me a follow there. You can check it out on my Facebook page as well at Raashaan Myers on Facebook. And then, of course, you have all the quality YouTube channels, Big X YouTube channel, Main Event Sports YouTube channel, as well as my own. There's plenty of places you can check this replay out, and I appreciate you guys. But, I want to get into the Louisville basketball stuff at first because y'all know I'm a basketball first guy anyway. And I thought that there was a lot of quality news that came out. Of course, Louisville released their first Cardinal commitment video. What was that? Maybe Wednesday of last week. Coach Kelsey and the Louisville basketball staff, they've been a little bit slow with putting out information. We saw, kind of basically a lot of team building stuff before that. They showed a little bit of kickball. They showed a little bit of togetherness. They showed some bowling and stuff before that. But the Cardinal commitment video was kind of the first time to see Louisville basketball on the court and see this new generation and this new group together. And I just thought it was interesting. They kind of focused the video around Jackson Shelstad, the new point guard for the University of Louisville, transfer from Oregon, as well as John Andershek, the new big-time assistant coach for Louisville. Of course, he was the head coach at Campbell, and prior to that, he was kind of the quote-unquote defensive coordinator, assistant coach for Florida on their national championship team. And I just loved everything about that video. Jackson Shelstad is a guy that I feel I probably know more about than maybe 95% of local media, just because I watched more Oregon basketball, I feel, than almost anybody. I mean, Mike Rutherford probably is a guy who maybe watched more than me because Mike watches everything and he has to write for it for SB Nation and everything else. He writes a lot of U of L related college basketball content. So, he pretty much watches everything. But I have a lot of knowledge and familiarity with Jackson. So I know who he is as a player, how he plays. I know about his talent. I know about his ability. And just listening to him kind of just talk about what it's like getting together with the guys and learning get where they like the ball and how they want to do it. I just loved everything from him. Jackson is going to be an absolute superstar as the starting point guard. And I just thought that just getting into his mindset a little bit and seeing him how he communicates with guys, I think is going to be huge. I do, while I love Michael Brown Jr. and I love everything that Michael brought to this University of Louisville, and I will always be thankful for it. I am not one who hated on him for the decisions that he needed to make. I know a lot of Louisville fans were upset and felt like he could have been out there and he just didn't, and they want to be mad about that. I can't fault a young man that had that much on the table for taking the advice of his people, whether it be his father, whether it be his agent or medical staff or whatever. I can't hate on him for that, but having Michael as a true freshman be the kind of leader and point guard of the team, the difficult part about that is you have a young man that's trying to figure out college basketball, get up to the speed of the game, figure out everything and how to do things at this level. And when you have a starting point guard that's having to learn how to do things, he can't really lead the team the way he needs to. He ends up being led. It was more about Conwell trying to help shepherd him in how to do it, where this year, getting back to basically the formula that U of L used at the point guard spot in year one, where you have a veteran point guard in Chucky Hepburn you had in year one. Now you have Jackson Shellstad basically in the same type of situation. Now Jackson isn't the skill set of Jackson is different than the skill set of Chucky. I would definitely, I honestly don't even need to argue. Jackson is definitely a better offensive point guard. He brings a more versatile offensive skill set than what Chucky did coming out of Wisconsin. But, Jackson is definitely not the defender that Chucky was. So, Jackson is definitely more of your offensive first guy. But that's not to say that he's not a good defender. I do think that it's different skill sets. But having that veteran point guard and having that guy to come in there, know who he is, know how to run a team, knows how to play the game at an elite level, a lot like Chucky. I think Chucky was maybe a third team all Big Ten guy coming over here from Wisconsin. He was either second or third team. And, Jackson Shellstad was a third team all Big Ten as a sophomore, finishing his sophomore year. Of course, his junior year was cut short because of injury, but at the same time, he was a first-team All-Big Ten point guard projected his junior year, but of course we know he had the wrist injury and then he had the broken wrist and then tore the ligaments in the wrist. So he was not able to live up to that, only playing, 12 or 14 games before shutting it down for the year. But just having that guy who knows who he is, knows how to put a team together, knows how to, conversate with the guys, and is going to be that leader, having that back is huge. So I think Jackson's going to do better at getting this team prepared and being a leader than Michael ever was. And it's not a knock on Michael. I think that Michael did a great job with his pure talent, his ability to pass the ball with the left and right hand, his ability to explode and get to the rim. I think that Michael definitely is going to be a guy that, because of his talent and his ability level, he's going to lead through just his pure ability. But in terms of getting everybody on the same page and knowing who you are, I think that Louisville's identity is going to be a lot stronger on both ends, because you're going to have that true leader and guy that you look to, where I don't think that the team really quote unquote, looked to Michael Brown to lead the team last year. It was kind of like, okay, this superstar freshman is going to go out here and be wild and awesome and amazing, so let's just ride that wave. It was more like, let's just ride that wave to victory almost, and while that's great and that's awesome, like, as we've seen over the years, there's a reason why teams that are led by Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper don't make big runs in the NCAA tournament. While those guys are ultimately talented and ultra talented, it is very difficult to have a freshman-led team go out there and do anything. So from that standpoint, I love what Jackson brings. I love everything that he said. I think the Louisville fans are going to be pleasantly surprised with how talented he is. But I think he's going to be a great leader, and I think that Louisville basketball is going to be better for that. The other part of that video was, of course, John Andershek just talking about his philosophies of how he builds a defense, the fact that he leans on being a no middle defense, which I love. He really leans into just everything that you need to be as a program from a, fundamental standpoint defensively. And, defense has been the calling card for everything that Louisville's done so far. And they're just kind of breaking it down. As he said, you have to go back to basics, talking about foot placement, talking about where you need to be. He kind of got with Flory Badunga because Flory was kind of just trying to muscle Gabe Dines in the paint rather than having his foot placement in the proper place and his arms in the proper place. And, while he said that, told Flory, it's awesome that you're great and you're strong. We know you're stronger than everybody in the gym, but I need you to do the little things correctly and properly. So when you get out there against bigger guys, you're in the right spot, and that also helps your teammates to be in the right spot. And I think John Andershek is going to bring a level of detail and a level of focus to a program that has not been bad defensively. University of Louisville has been a top 25, top 30 defense the first 2 years under Pat Kelsey. And to me, Pat Kelsey does a great job of building in that effort level to where his teams do not sacrifice their effort level defensively at all. And I think that while Louisville always had a great defense because Pat Kelsey gets the most out of his players in terms of effort and energy, I think that John Andershek is going to bring that fundamental base that is going to help the Louisville defense go from maybe top 25 good, top 30 good to top 10 good, and especially not only just the fact that they're going to be better fundamentally and they're going to be better from a structural standpoint. I think they're going to be better because Louisville also leaned into getting the right type of personnel to make that happen, getting bigger, rangier wings out there, which you have not had over the first 2 years at the University of Louisville, to get bigger, more physical post players, guys that are both smart but also super skilled, give great effort, and just have better defensive ability. When you talk about guys like Flory Badunga, where, yes, I know Flory is, just a shade under 6'8", barefooted, but, you don't play basketball barefooted, on top of the fact that he has a 7'3", 7'4" wingspan. So you have that guy down low who is the ultimate competitor, who has, a tireless motor. And then you bring in just the pure talent and intelligence of a young man like Obinna Akizi Jr. and everything that he brings in terms of being a superlative defender with great size at 7'2". He has the 7'4", 7'5" wingspan to go along with great intelligence coming from a father that played in the NBA and was an all-star standout at Maryland. I think that this Louisville team, I just get so excited for the potential of what Louisville basketball can be, y'all. Like, you don't understand how excited I am when I watch these videos because I am starving to see what these teams look like. I talked about the great wings. I talked about, the fact that now you have Carter Knox on the court, the 6'6", just dynamo of an athlete out there on the wing. You have Deshane Montgomery, who I am hearing is absolutely killing it in practice. I'm just so excited to see this team, y'all. I'm so excited, and I'm very, very excited that we're not going to have to wait long for that, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But, I just want to say that everything that Louisville's building from a structural standpoint and everything that they're building, it feels to me, and I think the reason that the Cardinal commitment video started out with those two guys being focused is because, to me, I think Pat Kelsey, and I'm sure that Pat Kelsey is the guy who kind of directs this from the background. He wanted to just basically share with University of Louisville, here, I'm going to show you guys why we are in good hands offensively. And I think that starts with Jackson Shelstad. And I think he wanted to, let Cardinal fans know why you're going to be in good hands defensively. And that's because of John Anderschek. When you really think about it, honestly, in my personal opinion, those two guys that, were the face of the first Cardinal commitment video may be the two most important additions of this offseason. You have the caretaker of the offense in Jackson Shelstad, and you have the architect and the face of the defense in John Anderschek. And I think that was intentional. And I'm super, super excited to just watch how this thing builds together. And it was awesome. I'd love to see it. Of course, there were some other great moments in there. We saw guys, my man who is just getting all types of FaceTime early on in a lot of these videos, and a kid that people really didn't know, even though, I'll be honest with you, I was jumping up and down after watching Bo Yuan Zhang at the Nike Hoop Summit last year, taking on Team USA, taking on Michael Brown and AJ Dabansa, and all these other guys that are just destroying Summer League as things get going. Bojan, held his own against, those monsters that are now in the NBA. He was the youngest kid at the Nike Hoop Summit last year and held his own, scoring double figures, having some highlight plays, doing a lot of nice things out there. He's only been in the United States for a year. The young man, played in the international, on the international circuit with China, with the Chinese national teams, playing in all types of FIBA competition, playing in all types of, U17, U16 competitions with China, has just tremendous amount of international experience to go along with coming over to the United States, first as part of the Hoop Summit, and then as part of the Nike EYBL Scholastic League, and really learning what the American game was about, taking the opportunity to come to the United States, work on his English, work on his communication skills. That's one of the things that I love about the fact that Bo Zhang coming over a year earlier, honestly, really gives him a leg up in terms of what he can be and how he communicates with his teammates. The fact that he came over to the U.S. this past year, rather than just being a international prospect that comes over from China immediately and is playing for Louisville basketball, that actually helps him get jump started in what he can be, because he's a superlative talent. But the communication aspect, sometimes the communication barrier can be a bit of an issue until a guy kind of starts to get used to the language. And the fact that Bo already has, he basically spent his, last year of high school doing all that communication stuff. So the work that he put in with Veritas Academy, working with those guys, learning the American game, learning the communication skills to be able to at least talk basketball at a, pretty decent to high level, that really gives him a leg up because he has the talent. The young man is, as the University of Louisville put out their roster, 6'9", 220 pounds. He has tremendous size. I mean, the young man, Pat Kelsey called him a guard, but when you watch him in these highlights, when he's playing, in a few of the clips you've seen, it's been him and Alvaro Fulgaris going out, who's a 6'10" power forward. So when your guard, quote unquote, is good enough, physical enough, and basically a matchup nightmare enough to where you have to put your 6'10" power forward on him to guard him. Like, do you understand the type of matchup nightmare and mismatch that guy's going to be on a night in, night out basis when he comes in at the 3 spot? Like, even in practice, Pat Kelsey's having to put a power forward out there on the perimeter against this guy. And, there are going to be times when you're going to have Bo out there at the 3 at 6'9". You're going to have Alvaro out there at the 4 at 6'10", and you're going to have Obi out there at 7'2". 6'9", 6'10", 7'2" in the front court. Like, it's unbelievable to think about. But Bo is a very talented player. I was super excited and could not believe that we found a way to steal him away from Illinois, who does not miss on international prospects very much. I don't know if you all paid attention to that, as Illinois made a run to the Final Four. And Illinois wanted Bo to come in and be basically their go-to six-man. Illinois is a top 5 team that had an established starting 5, but they wanted Bo to be the man and the head and the captain of that second unit. To be able to steal that guy away from Illinois and to be able to get him to the University of Louisville, y'all just don't know, man, how big that is. But that kid has been the face of several of these early University of Louisville kind of snippet videos that they've put out there. And I don't think it's necessarily because U of L's trying to throw like, a curveball or trying to hide other guys. I think Bo is just coming out there and people are seeing how talented he is, seeing how competitive he is. We see him, when he's out there with Eli Foy and he's pushing the truck with Eli standing on the truck and he's trying to push him to get to the other end. And you see Bo on the football field and he's out there carrying the sled and he's, everybody's yelling at him. I think that this young man is coming in and giving the level of work ethic, the level of fight, the level of competitiveness that, honestly, you don't know what you're getting when you get a kid from overseas, and especially, when you get a kid from, from Asia, Chinese kid, you don't know what his demeanor is going to be like. But that's one of the things as I watched a lot of film on Bo that jumped off to me is his competitiveness. Like both he and Isaac Ellis, both of those kids are ultimate competitors. They talk smack. They get in people's faces. They're fearless. Like I expect that out of Isaac Ellis because we know a little bit more about the Ellis brothers. We know that they like to talk smack. We know they were, out there at OTE. So that kind of comes with the territory. But I did not realize the amount of competitiveness and fearlessness and willing to get into your face and talk smack that Bo played with. He plays with an edge. And I think that edge has served him well coming into Louisville basketball. So when you have a kid that has the amount of talent, the amount of size, we already know he's a tremendous shooter. And the only thing that anytime they talk about Bojang, the first thing they talk about is knockdown shooter. It's the first thing that always comes out of their mouth. So when you know you have a guy who has size, who has competitiveness, who is a great shooter, and has a motor and a want, you pour into that guy. And I think that's why he's been a focus of so many of the videos, is because you have a kid who has all the intangibles. And in terms of American basketball, a lot like Gorgui Dieng, when Gorgui came over, 6 months, maybe 3 or 4 months before the end of the evaluation period. I think he got to the United States and started playing AAU ball in like April. And then, of course, University of Louisville saw him. Pitino saw him, offered him, and got him closed and committed without, going through a full cycle. Now, Bo was here for he didn't play on AAU circuit. He basically just played the Hoop Summit and then went to Veritas for the EYBL circuit. But he's still a bit of an unknown to talent evaluators. Like he played a whole year on the EYBL circuit, but Veritas was not a major team, and Bo was kind of the only good player on that team. So, teams were basically double and triple teaming him. He still averaged 20 points per game, for that team, but it was very difficult for him to really quote unquote show out because he was basically on a team where he's getting he's at the top of the scouting report for all these really good teams. You're getting double teamed and you're having to go out there and shoot a bunch of shots. So he's a little bit of a mystery to evaluators. And I feel like he's the young man that had he had a full off season of getting into the AAU tournaments and getting into these AAU events and played on one of the better AAU teams, I feel like Bo would have been rated a lot higher than where he was. I think he was like mid-70s, 72nd, 73rd, 74th. I think that the reason for that is because he just didn't get an opportunity to evaluate. I think that if this young man would have had a full AAU season and played for maybe a Montverde Academy or something, where he could go out there, play against the best competition, and have good teammates around him, I think he could have been a top 25 player. I think he could have been maybe even a top 15 player, honestly. I mean, and I'm not saying that just because he went to the University of Louisville. I just think that he has that type of ability, but because he was a little bit under the radar as a prospect, I feel like Louisville stole him one. I really do. I think Louisville stole him one. I love it because I think the world of him, and I would have said this about this young man wherever he went to, but the fact that he's going to the University of Louisville, I'm just super excited. So, those were kind of the biggest things to come out of that first Cardinal commitment video that I really, really noticed. There were great things that Coach Kelsey, said, in terms of in some of the conversations that he's had with people about the fight of Isaac Ellis, which is awesome. We know that Carter Knox is just coming back off injury. He's now healthy now, talking about what he's going to bring to the table. Deshane Montgomery, like if you want to talk about the guy that people are kind of being kept under wraps, even though they did put out a video of Deshane absolutely detonating on a dunk over Gabe Dines in practice. If you want to talk about the guy that I feel from the intel that I'm getting and what I've heard people kind of mention, the guy that's not getting a lot of face time that University of Louisville may be trying to sneak into the regular season, my vote is for Deshane Montgomery. I think that dude, from what I understand, he is absolutely just destroying it in practice. Like, he's doing some big things, and it feels like we see him in the highlights, but we'll see him for you see guys like Bo getting 8 to 10 to 12 seconds on there. Deshane gets 2.5 seconds. And I feel that is definitely on purpose. But from what I am understanding and from what I'm hearing, Louisville maybe got the steal of the transfer portal with that guy. Deshane Montgomery was a highly thought of and well thought of guy as a transfer out of Dayton. But from what people are saying, this young man is coming in, and in terms of, whatever you want to say, a 2-3, a wing, or 2 guard, he's just been as good as anybody. And that's including anybody who's returning, anybody new. There's not really been anybody who's playing better than him overall. And that's very, very exciting. But, I could go on and on. We will definitely talk more because University of Louisville did announce huge news about being able to put your eyes on this team. So I want to talk about that on the other side as well. We have that much more to get into. We got plenty of NBA talk coming. Just so many things to get into on this Saturday morning. This is Wake Up 502, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM, and we'll be back on the Big X. Welcome back in. Welcome back in. Second segment of the show. Wake Up 502, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. Big X Sports Radio. It's going down on a beautiful Saturday morning here. Back in the saddle with Wake Up 502 after 2 weeks off, man. Just kind of chopping up and talking about some of the things that we missed, some of the things that really caught my eye since last we spoke. And just a lot happening. And hey, I got to give a shout out, man. You all don't understand the way I ingest basketball. I got the opportunity to watch the Adidas 3 SSB squad go out there and play in the FIBA championships, the European championships a few weeks back. Got to see all those great young guys like Nasir Anderson, Blaze Johnson, and the rest of those guys. Of course, our own Louisville's own Mason Grivna. Watch those guys go out there and play very, very well. Anywhere where I can watch prep hoops, I grew up, and kind of cut my teeth in this business on the recruiting side. So any of these tournaments where I get to see the best and the brightest still get out there and play, I love it. So I was, definitely on top of those guys. Blaze Johnson is a young man that University of Louisville is definitely paying a lot of attention to, and they're giving a lot of attention to. I love that. Blaze is a heck of a basketball player. 3SSB went out there, won their first 2 games in the tournament, lost to a super, super talented Spanish team led by Joaquim Bumche. Of course, you know him because he just helped lead USA, the U17 squad to just an absolutely dominant victory in that FIBA championships, the U17 championships. As part of the Team USA squad. So he's playing for the not French squad. He was playing for Spain over there, Real Madrid. Played with that Real Madrid squad. Ruben Bumche's son, just an absolute talent. When Duke basketball in the last 3 years is going to have Cooper Flagg, Cam Boozer, and now Ruben Bumche's son, Joakim Bumche. They're going to have Joakim for 2 years. The fact that they're going to have those guys as kind of your star, 4 or 5 guy, 3 straight years, and you wonder why. And guess what? They still ain't going to win no championship. I'm going to go ahead and call it now. John Shire is the most overrated coach in all of college basketball. Because he's going to have all this talent, and they're going to mess it up. They're going to mess it up. Duke's going to mess it up. But Joakim Bumche is an absolute beast. But I had to give a shout-out to that U17 squad. They went over there. I can't remember where they played that tournament. I want to say maybe it was Greece, but I can't say that if it was Athens. May have been Athens. But wherever they were, that team of Joakim Bumche, CJ Rosser, Caden Daughtry, and the rest of those guys, man, they were absolutely dominant over there. And, DeMarcus Henry, those guys were really, really good. They were really, really good. Super impressed with those guys. Most dominant group that I've seen play international competition. I know that USA basketball pretty much dominates the U17 every year, but there are levels to that. And, they played and faced off against Serbia and Nikola Costa Rica, who had a very good tournament at the U17s. Let me tell you something. I know that I wanted to make fun of UK and Mark Pope and doing the whole whiff thing. And, the Whiff King is back and all that stuff. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I am so glad that Nikola Costa Rica decided to commit to UCLA. Thank you, Mick Cronin. Thank you, UCLA NIL. Whatever it took, because Costa Rica is a problem. And if you would have had, your kind of wing combo of Milan Momcilovic and Nikola Costa Rica to go along with the rest of those guys, Zoom and Alex Wilkins and the rest of them, then UK would have been a serious problem. I did not realize how good Nikola Costa Rica was until I watched him in that tournament. And He went for darn near 40 against that dominant U17 squad for USA basketball. Now, USA was bigger, more athletic, really dominated the second half of the game, but Costa Rica was getting what he wanted to. And he got the shots where he wanted to get them. He was aggressive going to the basket, very big and physical at the rim. Did not mind getting out there and mixing it up. You know what it reminded me of? Honestly, it reminded me of Tony Kukoc going out there against Team USA. And while Tony Kukoc, his squad was completely overmatched, like Kukoc himself showed that he was, good enough to go to the NBA and be a player. And I know that this is a lower level because you're talking about U17 where Kukoc versus Team USA, that was Kukoc going out there against NBA players. But basically the same thing because I feel like you may see more than half of that roster, and that's being nice. Like, I think there's going to be more than half of that roster that we see on NBA. When we go back, we're going to see a lot of those guys on NBA courts moving forward. But Nicola Costa Rica is a very good player. I don't buy into saying, oh, well, he's a top 5 guy in 2028 in the draft. He could be, he couldn't be. I think it's too early to say who's going to be the top 5 guys in the 2028 draft. I mean, you have 2 years for that. So you could have all types of movement, all types of guys to move up and down. But I do think that Costa Rica is a very good player, and I think he has the ability and potential to be a very good college player. So he really, really impressed me. And, yeah, I'm glad he's not going to Lexington because that dude would have been a problem. Like, he was way better than what I thought he was. But shout out to Team USA. And those guys have just basically hit the ground running. Caden Daughtry basically got off a plane from Europe, went straight out there to the July evaluation period out there in Vegas, and immediately just starts killing dudes. University of Louisville is in on him. That they are really targeting several of the top point guards in the class, Caden Daughtry being one of those. I don't think Caden's at the top of the list. Right now, it looks like Reese Austin, son of Skip to Malou, Rafer Austin, is the kind of guy who's front and center for University of Louisville, so much so that Pat Kelsey decided to skip day 1 of Vegas in the July evaluation period to go watch Reese Austin in Richmond and get that done. He was the only head coach to go out there and watch Reese Austin on the first game. Where, from my understanding, Houston was thought to be kind of the other team there, but that's not the case. Give a shout out to Jody Demling. My man Jody Demling made the move, and I know a lot of people have been talking crazy about it and all that stuff. Made the move from Cardinal Authority, made the move to On3. He's now the head of Cardinal Sports. The Cardinal Sports page on the On3 network. But Jody Demling is the insider of insiders. He gives great insight. And congratulations to him for making that move over to On3. Jody has been putting out humongous information out there on the message boards at the Cardinal Sports Network on On3. I would definitely say you need to sign up. I believe they have a great sign-up deal right now. It's like $1 for the first 4 months, something crazy. So, if you have not signed up yet for the On3 network, give Jody a follow, and also shout out to, the guys over at Cardinal Authority. Michael McCammon, of course, is still there. Our man who was formerly of KSR, Jacob Polachek, who I've met personally, and I like Jacob. He's a good dude, and he's a tireless worker. I think he's going to do very well taking over for Jody at Cardinal Authority. He's already getting into the weeds. Had a big article. He posted it on Twitter talking about Reese Austin and the fact that, that they put out feelers for the possibility and potential of Reese doing a reclassify. We see a lot of these kids, these 2027 kids, reclassifying. Marcus Spears Jr., the number 1 player in the 2027 class, just announced that he's reclassifying. So he can go straight to college this year. He's going to play for the Texas Longhorns, and he's going to have to stay in college for 2 years. But you see a lot of kids now doing this reclassification because of NIL, honestly. It's like if you go, you reclassify, you hop in there now with the new rules, and the age limitation rules, basically you're getting your clock started early. So now you're going to have 2 years of NIL you're going to be able to earn before you're eligible for the NBA draft. So, like, if you have a certain talent level, everybody's looking for that opportunity, which I can't blame them for. Now, is it a possibility that Reese Austin could make that, that reclassification and come in 2026? Possibly. But I shout out to Jacob for going and getting that nugget. He did an interview with Rafer Austin, his father, and they talked about that. So shout out to Jacob as well. Jacob is hitting around ground running with our Cardinal Authority. The one thing I know about the media here is that you have great insiders and great media guys that put the work in. And just shout out to everybody. Yeah, shout out to the work that everybody's doing. Shout out to Jody Demley. Shout out to Jacob Polachek. Shout out to Marcus and Steve there in the morning, middays with Marcus Maven and all the things that those guys have done. Will Hankey has been a feature over there. And, I'm never one to not, to kind of keep quiet or not talk about what other guys are doing. I love all the media guys here. I'm not in competition with them. I feel like, Louisville media is a family. And I feel like we're all just helping to make the Louisville community what it is, which is, one of the greatest sports cities in America. And we all work together and we are all out there. It was funny. I had a guy on Twitter talking about, man, I remember when we were on other sides of the fence, with all this stuff going on with Kenny Payne. And I was like, yeah, it was crazy. The Kenny Payne time was crazy. But like I said, I don't hold any of that to anybody. We're all Cardinal fans. So, I'm just happy that we're all on the same page again, and now we can just point and laugh at UK when Mark Pope is whiffing all over the place. So, I'm glad everybody's back on the same page. But shout out to what those guys, were able to do with getting Will Hankey in there. Will's done a great job talking about, a lot of the things that are going on in practice. It was interesting. A couple of things that perked my ears up. While Will was on there talking about Flory Badunga and talking about the fact that, where Louisville has kind of been, over the first couple of years, a high volume 3-point shooting team. And he said, of course they're not going to lose their personality, but the fact that they have a guy in Flory Badunga that demands the ball on the block, and the guards are doing a great job of definitely looking every time there's an opportunity to get the ball to Flory down there on the block. And Will said basically, Flory gets the ball down there and, he's able to go with the left hand or the right hand hook, and he's finishing that play with about a 70 or 80%, effectiveness, where he's finishing that consistently in the post. I love to hear that. I'll love to hear that a little bit better once we get Obina Akizi out there, because I think Obina is going to give Flory a look that he doesn't get right now. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think Gabe Dines, at being a 7-5 shot blocker, I think he's definitely going to challenge Flory. But I think that Flory's ability to kind of maybe bully, but his ability to kind of bully Gabe a little bit to help maybe get him out of position helps Flory a little bit, where I don't think that Flory will be able to bully Gabe nearly as much. So I think they'll give him a better look. But just the fact that was one of the things that kind of jumped off to me about Flory Badunga when I watched him at the NBA Combine, was that he was going out there and playing against some big time athletic centers, and watching him go out there and finish with that hook shot with both hands a few times. I didn't know he had that in his game. Like, I knew that Flory, especially being aggressive, getting rebound putbacks or being able to get a guy under the basket and then dunking on him, I knew he could do that. But his skill around the basket to be able to finish with post moves was something that I didn't realize. It sounds like Louisville's doing a great job of really getting him comfortable with that. If Flory can consistently hit that, get that catch in the post and can finish with that left or right hand hook, That's huge. And the fact that Louisville's looking for it is huge. Not only because you get easy baskets that way, but if they're looking to get that down there, then that causes teams to have to help. And when you have to help, that's when you get that ball moving and you get the defense rotating, and somebody ends up with a wide open three, whether it be Alvaro Figueres, whether it be Adrian Woolley, whether it be Jackson Shelstad, whoever it is. We talked about Bo Zhang, and maybe it's Bo. When you have a dominant low post presence, it's just another weapon. Like I give Pat Kelsey all the credit in the world. He does a great job of drawing up plays to be able to get guys screening, those fade screens to get wide open shots and doing some of those other things. But when you have a low post presence that you look to and you look to throw it to, that is a way to get a lot of easy perimeter shots. And that's where I think that Louisville is really going to get better. It's just going to be the simple fact that, while it's great to be able to draw up plays to get open shots, it's very difficult to do that consistently, especially against teams that have better athleticism, better size out there. Then it comes to who can be bigger and more physical and force the defense to do something they don't want to do. When a team has to double team or they have to send help, no defense wants to ever have to do that. They want to be able to guard at the primary point of attack and maybe half help so they can get back to their man. But when you have a guy who can be dominant to where you have to basically run at him to get the ball out of his hands, that's when other guys get wide open. I think that's what's been missing from Louisville basketball over the last couple of years, where, Pat Kelsey, because of his pace, because of his tempo, because of his ability to draw up plays and get his team to run through those plays at a breakneck speed, you can do a lot of that offensively, but I think one of the reasons that you've seen Louisville struggle against the Tennessees, against the Arkansas, against the most athletic best teams on the schedule is because that really doesn't work against elite athletes, because elite athletic teams with elite defensive ability, they can shut all those plays down. That's when it becomes less about plays and more about personnel. And Louisville now has the personnel to be able to force any team, even your best defensive teams, to do things they don't want to do. That's winning basketball. That's championship basketball. And I think that right there is going to be a huge difference. I know I said I was going to talk about the news about, University of Louisville getting to see them. It's going to have to wait to hour number 2, y'all. We're already done with the first hour. It's been, the first hour's just flown by, breaking down a whole bunch of things. This is Wake Up 502. Raashaan Myers. We'll be back on the Big X with Wake Up 502, hour number 2. We'll be back. And welcome back in. Welcome back in. Hour number 2, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. Big X Sports Radio. First hour just flew by. Back with you for a second hour. Got plenty more to get into, plenty more to talk about. We talked about a lot about Louisville basketball and the things going on with them, a lot of the announcements. I got to give a shout out. Cardinal commitment for 2027. Fernandez Wright putting in work, getting things started in the July evaluation period. He's out there playing with the Indy Heat squad out there in Vegas. 16 points, 17 rebounds in his first action. And just let me tell you something. A lot of people, Fernandez was a guy who University of Louisville went in and offered very, very early on. A lot of people didn't really know much about him. Young man is a worker. I've played ball with him. When he's come out, he used to come out to the gym all the time. Y'all know I still like to get out and hoop. And I've seen Fernandez in the gym working out. I've seen him playing. That young man is a very, very talented kid. Great size, strong as an ox. He's a bull at about 6'7", maybe a little bit taller. Just a very smart, heady player. He's strong. He's very physical. Combo forward, definitely more of a 4 than a 3 at this point. But very good defender, very strong, excellent rebounder. Jump shot has gotten a lot more consistent over the last year or so. He puts in a lot of work, but he's a guy who knows who he is as a player. And I think that's one of the things that really gets lost a lot with a lot of young players is that they spend so much time trying to, show what they can do to quote unquote expand their game that sometimes they kind of forget what they're good at. And Fernandez is a young man that does not do that. He's a young man that knows I'm a beast on the boards. I can get inside. I'm stronger than most of the guys my size. So I know how to use my body around the block. I know how to, post up and use my strength and length to be able to finish inside. And I know how to be able to be physical defensively and move my feet. But he is also a guy who, if you leave him alone outside, he can knock down a jump shot. He is a guy who has got great vision and can pass the ball. He was a guy who was rated probably outside the top 150 when he was offered by the University of Louisville. And you've seen his rise in the rankings. He went from a guy who was probably outside the top 150 to now sitting right around the same spot that Bojang was sitting when he committed to University of Louisville, around 72, 73, 74. And with the start that Fernandez has had in Vegas, and how he's basically playing this spring, you can see that ranking continue to rise because his combination as a guy at 6'7", 6'8", you won't find anybody stronger than him. And with his fundamental base, his instincts, and his basketball IQ, I think it's just going to continue to rise. But super, super excited about that. But we're going to go to the Call Your Law Office hotline. We got our man Jay Has on the line this morning. Jay, good morning. How you doing, brother?
Good morning, Raashaan Myers. Good morning.
Man, hey, I was giving a shout out to Louisville's own Fernandez Wright, man. He's doing good work out there in Vegas. Everybody's out there in Las Vegas this week, Jay. You got NBA Summer League going on out there. You got high school kids out there. Coach Kelsey is out there recruiting, the next group of Louisville Cardinals out there, man. It's a whole lot of basketball being played right now, Jay.
A whole lot of basketball. Summer League.
Oh, yeah. No, you got Cardinals in the Summer League doing work. You got Michael Brown doing work. You got Ryan Conwell looking like a first-round draft pick for the Heat. Isaac McNeely's doing his thing, knocking down threes for the Atlanta Hawks. These Cardinals is looking pretty good. Jay, I can't remember the last time Louisville had this many guys, looking like they could be, on NBA contracts.
I think it's like, back in 2009 or whatever, that never happened. But I put about 3 or 4 kids at NBA drafts. I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean, we were chatting about it. It's like I said, I'm trying to remember the last time that you had 4 Cardinals all on NBA contracts at one time, and I believe that the last time that happened was like around 2008, 2009 time frame when you had Francisco Garcia, you had the Samardo Samuels, as well as T. Will and Earl Clark getting drafted. I'm pretty sure that's the last time we had 4 Cardinals all on NBA contracts at one time. And, it's been a while, Jay. So, I mean, Coach Kelsey's getting started quickly. He's getting, trying to put these Cardinals in the NBA. You know what I'm saying?
I'm impressed, Coach Kelsey.
Yeah. Coach Kelsey knows how to find that talent, don't he? I mean, like, to me, that's huge. Like, the fact that, the one big thing that I felt that, like, Louisville was missing so many years, even under Rick Pitino, was enough representation in the NBA to help encourage young players want to come to the University of Louisville, because guys look up to players like Michael Brown Jr. And now that you're in this transfer market, when you're able to have Chucky Hepburn, on a roster with the Toronto Raptors, he just signed his second 2-way deal, so he's guaranteed an NBA paycheck for another year. You have Michael go in the top 6, but then you have a guy like Ryan Conwell go from a guy who was not going to get drafted to now he's at the top of the second round as a transfer. That gets guys looking at the Louisville program, wanting to be a part of it. When you talk about guys like Deshane Montgomery wanting to come to Louisville, a guy like Jackson Shelstad wanting to come to Louisville, that's all a part of it, right? Is the fact that these guys are having success under Kelsey, and Kelsey can make their NBA dreams come true, Jay. I think that's important, don't you?
Yes, sir. Kelsey got the bag. Yeah. He got the Louisville bag.
He knows what he's doing. So, I think that there's probably 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 guys off this Louisville team upcoming that's probably going to have an opportunity to make a little NBA paycheck as well, Jay. So I think maybe soon Coach Kelsey is going to have more guys in the NBA than Rick Pitino ever put in the league. How crazy is that? I mean, to me personally, I think that's kind of nuts. That when you think about it, that was the one thing. Rick Pitino, of course, came in. And I know that the dynamics are different now with the transfer portal versus what Rick had to deal with when you had to bring guys in and guys had to be in your program. And Coach Kelsey can now go out there, find talent. But, when you're talking about bringing over transfer portal guys, you're talking about guys that are in their 3rd year at least of basketball. So, a lot of these guys, if you're still in college after your 3rd year of basketball, looking for a 4th year, you weren't a guy who was immediately on NBA radars, So when you're talking about players who can come and transfer in and be draft picks, that Coach Kelsey's doing something right. I don't think that's a mistake. So the fact that Coach Kelsey is getting guys, Chucky Hepburn wasn't talked about as a draft pick. Ryan Conwell was not talked about as a draft pick. Isaac McNeely wasn't a guy who was necessarily considered a guy who was going to have a possibility to make a roster. So I do think that there's something to that. And Kelsey getting that reputation for being a guy that you can come to, have success, get him to the league, I think that puts you and continues to keep Louisville at the top level of recruiting for the transfer portal. And then you add to that Michael Brown Jr. gets, drafted in the top 6. You have now Obinna Ekezie. If Ekezie has another big year and he goes one and done, Jay, I think Louisville's going to have the best of both worlds. You're going to get the best transfers and some of the best high school talent year in and year out.
That's a great segue into what we talked about Coach Pitino, former Louisville's main basketball coach, and Coach Kelsey. That the lower product does work, and it's worth a lot of money, and it's a big arena in front of national televisor, in front of 23,000 per night. And the repercussions of the Raashaan is that you have a true playmaker, Donovan Mitchell, on a new contract, a 4-year deal, $273. He's making $68 million a year with Raashaan Myers. So Louisville product does work. All you got to do is implement it. Great coach like Coach Kelsey or Coach Pitino or whatever. And Louisville program works. You see the fruition of it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And on top of that, Jay, you also have the Louisville's Adidas deal is coming up for renegotiation. I believe it ends next year. Their Adidas contract, their current Adidas contract, so they're going to be up to sign a new deal. And one of the programs that's a top Adidas program just got their deal signed was Tennessee. And when they talk about the things that Adidas is doing for Tennessee as part of their new deal to help, NIL opportunities, to help Tennessee do a lot of things in terms of helping their athletes get Adidas contracts early on in their careers, at the college level. Like when Louisville looks to re-sign their new deal, whether it be with Adidas, Jay, or whether it's with Nike, I feel like it's probably still going to be Adidas, but you're going to see the University of Louisville get a lot more help. So, it's huge. I feel like Cardinal Athletics, man, is on the way up. There's big things coming.
Man, I love it with Mitchell and Lamar Jackson and the rest of the guys just playing in the professional arena. And man, I'm so excited about this, college football just around the corner over the weekend. We're taking a 4-day vacation.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. Absolutely, it's gonna be going down in Nashville. I cannot wait to get down there to Category 10. It's gonna be a great time down there. Just getting ready, counting it down. I mean, we got football practices upcoming. It's July 11th, Jay. We're probably 3 weeks from the start of fall camp. Like, it's unbelievable. We've made it through the summer. We're there, like literally. You got probably 3 weeks until guys start reporting and getting ready for the season. So, I mean, it's going to be time to start getting ready for Nashville in a minute. So we got to make sure that everybody gets down there and is a part of what's going on. I'm super excited about it.
Raashaan Myers, to have those opportunities to be a part of a prestigious big event like this, a tailgate down there at Category 10, right there, 2nd and Broadway, right downtown Nashville. And Raashaan, you forget him as well, too, but the girls' volleyball plays at noon is Texas.
Yeah. No, I mean, you got the volleyball team playing at noon. You have, U of L football kicking off that evening, I believe 7:30 down there at Nissan Stadium. So, I mean, it's so much going on that day. We're going to be right down there in the middle of the craziness. I cannot wait to get down there to the Music City. Nashville has, always is a great host city for big time events. So, I mean, there's a lot happening with that. And it actually, Jay, Nashville's name just came up. Mike Rutherford was talking about it this week that, Louisville played that big game against Baylor down there in Texas last year during the basketball season. And he's hearing that Louisville-Baylor, the return game this year, is going to be in Nashville as well sometime in February. So, or either end of January or first part of February. But that we might be down in Nashville a couple of times upcoming.
Well, Raashaan, and closing remarks in your college, and I'm so excited to get to Nashville for this football season right now from over there. And we get a chance to see the one and only Dolly Parton.
Oh, yeah, the icon herself. You know what I'm saying? I think Dolly's a Louisville fan. I don't think she's a Tennessee fan. I think she's a Louisville fan, Jay. Last time I saw her, she said L's up.
There's no other sports show that's doing no more than what 96.1 and maybe and what the 502 sports show is. I mean, it's amazing when you go to these prestigious events and hang with some of the biggest stars and R&B stars, rappers. I mean, the whole nine. There's no other sports show that's doing it like this show, Wake Up 502.
That's what we do, Jay. That's how we do it. Like we always say, ain't no party like a Wake Up 502 party, because a Wake Up 502 party don't stop. That's what we do. That's how we do it. So, yeah, we got a lot happening. We got a lot going on. So, I'm ready to get to it all. I'm ready to get back to the season. It's going to be starting very, very soon, and it's going to get kicked off by Louisville basketball, Jay. We're going to have Louisville basketball coming up in like 2.5 weeks.
I know, man. I thought you become a rapper now. You're rapping now?
Well, hey, if I got to, give me the mic.
All right, Doc. Well, appreciate it, Raashaan Myers. On the way to go is 611.
Yes, sir. One of the best to ever do it. Jay has checking in. Appreciate it, Jay. There we go. Jay has checking in this morning. Super excited to hear from him. And Jay has been talking nonstop about getting ready for Nashville, going down there to Category 10, doing that event with the U of L Alumni Association. Super, super excited to be hosting that, getting you ready, counting you down to kick off there in Nashville. So super, super excited for that, y'all. Football season's almost here. That's the one thing I always say. Basically, once the NBA Summer League gets here, like pretty much once the NBA draft gets here, to me, the summer's over, because you have the NBA draft, and then 2 weeks after the NBA draft, basically, is when you start NBA Summer League with the California Classic and the event in Salt Lake City with the Utah Jazz, and then you go roll right after that right into the Vegas Summer League. And that basically takes you up now with with them revising the rules for the NCAA teams to be able to take these foreign trips every year rather than once every 4 years. Now you're going to start having, college basketball preview time. And I feel like the end of July, first part of August is going to become kind of college basketball preview time. And then college basketball preview time is going to take you right into NFL preseason. And NFL preseason is going to take you right into the start of the college football season. And then right after that, you have NFL season starting, in earnest. And then in October, college basketball is back along with the NBA. So, to me, once you get to the NBA draft, things start moving very, very quickly. And I'm super, super excited about it. I know Jay is as well. It's a lot happening. And, hey, I might as well go ahead and bring it up now and just talk about it. And, yes, continue to send those questions in. I see them starting to flow in, 502-414-1450. That is the Game Day Men's Health text line. I see your texts coming in here. Definitely want to get to those. But, I do want to first say, University of Louisville did announce, I just brought up with Jay, that they will be playing 2 games in the Bahamas, July 28th and 29th. They're going to be early games. That's a Tuesday and a Wednesday coming up in about 2.5 weeks. They're going to be playing there in the Bahamas. There are several teams. I think there's like 5 or 6 teams down there, including the Arkansas Razorbacks, that are going to be playing games against international competition. These teams can't play each other down there in the Bahamas, but there are multiple teams down there. I know the Bahamian national team is down there. You got some of those teams like Carleton University from Canada that's down there. These schools come down there to participate in these events, these international programs, as well as local international teams and local professional teams sign up to be a part of this event. And University of Louisville has announced that they're going to be a part of that. And I really do think that that's a huge feather in the cap of teams that are looking to be super successful. University of Louisville is going to get down there. They're going to be a part of it. They have not discussed as of yet how the television is going to be for it, whether it's going to be streaming on ESPN Plus or whether it's going to be on Floyd Media Network like it was last year on YouTube or whatever. But however it's going to be out there, it's definitely going to be something that you're going to have the opportunity to check out. So super, super excited for that. I just want to see the guys get going. My guess is that pretty much everybody will be available to play except probably Obinna Ekezie, just because Obinna is still dealing with the rehab from his off-season shoulder surgery. It was good to see that they put out video of the Louisville team out there getting some workouts in with the local fire department. They were out there with the mayor, out there with the Louisville Fire Department. But Obinna Ekezie was out there pulling the hose. So if his shoulder's good enough to be pulling the hose, that tells me that he's getting close to being back. I don't know if he'll be, back enough to be able to go out there and play, in the event at the end of July. But Obi's definitely getting close to being back on the floor. I know Coach Kelsey brought it up that Carter Knox was pretty much close, and now we know that Carter Knox is back in practice. And we've seen some of the highlights of him out there on the court. And Obi's close. I think that by the end of July, he should be back on the court. But like I said, I don't think that he'll more than likely be able to be back enough to be able to get out there and play. And you don't want him to rush it back. Young man with that amount of talent and ability, you want to make sure he's fully ready to go before you put him into a competitive game. So Don't think you'll see him. I think you'll see everybody else. And it'll just be fun to have this Louisville team put a little bit of time on the court so we can kind of see what this next generation and this next edition of Coach Kelsey, year 3, is going to look like on the court, and give us games that we can watch and replay over and over again 55 times before the season gets started when they head to Lawrence for that first exhibition game to take on the Kansas Jayhawks. But we are going to get right to the text line, 502-414-1450. That is the Game Day Men's Health text line. We got the text flying in this morning, so I want to get to those. Texter says, first text of the day, have you heard any talk about London Johnson has looked in practice? He's the biggest question mark to me for this upcoming year as far as players are concerned. Hey, let me tell you something. I'm glad you brought that up. London Johnson was a guy who Louisville fans were very critical of because there was an opportunity for London to possibly play minutes last year for Louisville as the backup to Michael Brown Jr., and London ended up deciding against getting out there and playing. The excuse that was given at the time was, well, London's having a hard time picking up the playbook. We don't want to put him out there before he's ready. As I understand it, it was more of a situation of, if London Johnson would have come in and played last year, Louisville only wanted to pay him for a protracted rate. They only wanted to pay him for the amount of games he was going to play for the rest of the season. So, of course, if London Johnson comes out there and plays in mid-January or February, you're only going to get paid for 2 months of basketball. So you balance it out. 2 months of basketball or a full season of basketball paycheck. Do I take a half a paycheck or do I wait and take a full paycheck? Well, London and his people, and I don't blame him, say, you know what, I'd love to play, but I don't want to have to take a pay cut to get out there and play. So I'm just going to wait, and I'm going to hold off until this year. And I'm okay with that. Like, I understand that. None of y'all, literally 0% of y'all, would sign up to agree to take less money at your job. None of you. Like, nobody's doing that. So I understand why London did it. But from what I understand and what they've been talking about in practice, that London Johnson is playing serious basketball. And, for a guy who got here and who has been here, I think the fact that he's already been on campus, since January, he's had a long time to learn the system. He's had a long time to kind of get comfortable with what Kelsey expects out of his point guards. And he was able to kind of go against Michael Brown Jr. and Ryan Conwell in practice and kind of give the scout team look for the guys who were playing. And I really think that London Johnson, from what they're saying, dude's a lot better, because he did get kind of I think a lot of Louisville fans kind of got really harsh on him, thinking, okay, this guy's just not good enough to play. If he was good enough to play, he would have been playing last year. I don't think that was the case. London was a top 40 guy coming out of high school. He was ranked around, 32nd, 33rd, 34th. He was a very highly rated prospect coming out of high school. He has talent, he has good size, and he has a lot of skill. But from what I'm understanding, the dude can get into the lane. He can get by his man, and he's an excellent passer. And he's, displayed all of that in practice. So I'm just going to tell you, like, from what I understand, London Johnson is a lot better than what people are expecting. And, I'm super, super excited. Like, University of Louisville has gone from the first 2 years basically only having one point guard. First year being Chucky, and then as the only true point guard. And in year 2, it was basically only Michael. Louisville's gone from the first 2 years only having one true lead guard to now having 3, because Jackson Shellstad, I've already talked about how much I am excited for him, but London Johnson is a guy who's going to play and is going to be impactful. And then from what I understand, Isaac Ellis is pushing London in terms of his ability to go out there and do things on the court. Louisville has 3 actual point guards, 3 legitimate lead ball handlers, 3 guys that can create for others as well as themselves and run a team. Louisville has not had that. They haven't even had 2 guys that can do that. Like, I appreciate everything that Adrian Willie tried to do as kind of your reserve point guard. Same thing with Ryan Conwell. But that just, them being the primary facilitator, was not their skill set, but they went out there and did the best they could. Now Louisville has three guys that can run a team. That is going to be huge. Pat Kelsey, the point guard position, is the most important part of a Pat Kelsey team and a Pat Kelsey offense. So the fact that Louisville, when you would go to the bench, when you would have Michael go to the bench, or when Michael was hurt, when you had Chucky Hepburn go to the bench, Louisville's offense struggled mightily. So the fact that now you're going to have actual guys that have the skills and the ability to go out there and continue to let that offense run at a high level and execute at a high level, to where you don't have to just, Chucky Hepburn, you almost had to slow down everything and, play at a very methodical pace because you didn't want Chucky to get worn out and have to sit the bench for any amount of time. He's playing 35, 37, 38 minutes a game. Now you can kick that tempo up and keep that tempo up because now when you go to the bench and you bring in the reserve point guard, those guys can still come in and do that. Like Kobe Rogers tried to do that. He just did not have the skill set for it. Kobe was more of a two. Same thing with Woolley. Same thing with Conwell. You won't have that issue this year. So great question. Appreciate that. That question talking about and asking about London Johnson. Yeah, I think that London is going to be very good. Very good off the, with the handle. He's got a great change of pace. He's very good at getting into the middle. He's got a nice mid-range pull-up game, and his passing is excellent. So, and all he's been doing pretty much since he got here has been working on making his jump shot consistent. And that's been the biggest thing that he's worked on because that's been the biggest knock on London is his inconsistency shooting from the perimeter. So that's kind of what he's been working on. And if he can come out there and be a guy who can shoot that at a 37, 38% clip and be a guy who is a legitimate threat from the perimeter, that's only going to make him better. And that's going to make his off the dribble game even better if he can give that hesitation, that ball fake, and get into the lane. So I've heard great things about London Johnson. So that answers your question there. I tell you what, let's go ahead. Let's take this last break. When I come on the other side, I'm going to read the rest of your texts. We do have them coming in hot and heavy. If you all have any questions, please get them in now. 502-414-1450. That is the Game Day Men's Health text line. You are listening to Wake Up 502. Raashaan Myers, 96.1 FM, and we'll be back on the Big X. welcome back in. Last segment of the show, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM, Big X Sports Radio. This is Wake Up 502, Raashaan Myers, taking care of you this morning. We're just talking all and everything sports, taking your text, 502-414-1450, Game Day Men's Health text line. Just talking about a little bit of everything this morning, man. There's so much happening. NBA Summer League is off and rolling, and, you know, this this 2026 recruiting class has been hyped up, not, you know, deservedly so. Like, most unbelievable freshman class ever that I can remember, and what these guys were able to do in college. You know, whether you're talking about AJ Devonta, whether you're talking about Cam Boozer, you're talking about Darren Peterson and Michael Brown and Darius Acuff. But these guys have come out and lived up to the hype in the NBA Summer League. Like, it's unbelievable. Caleb Wilson made his debut last night for the Chicago Bulls. This kid goes out, scores like 34 points, 7 rebounds, hits 7 threes in his debut as the number 4 pick in the draft. And I mean, all these guys, you know, normally what you see from, you know, your hot shot draft picks is that normally the first couple of games they struggle. And the guys that have been around the NBA for at least a year, you know, the young players or the veterans that are trying to get back in that have played 2 or 3 or 4 seasons, those guys usually dominate the play early, and the young guys, as the Summer League rolls forward, as guys get into their second, their third, their fourth game, then you start to see the young players kick it up a notch and get used to the speed of the game and get used to the quickness and the athleticism. These guys aren't waiting. Like, and it's not just the guys at the top of the draft. I'm talking about everybody. I watched the game on Thursday night and watched LeBaron Philon, who's playing for the Philadelphia 76ers, and I watched Ibuka Okori, who was drafted by the Detroit Pistons. These guys are going back and forth, shot for shot. Both guys score like 20 points, you know, 4 or 5 assists, knocking down threes, making big plays. Like, these guys are not waiting. I talked about it. The first weekend of the Summer League, only 3 guys scored over 20 points per game. One of those guys being Louisville's own Ryan Conwell. Goes out for the Miami Heat as the 37th pick in the draft and has been outstanding. In his 4 games, he's averaging 20 points per game for the Miami Heat. Coming out as the Miami's only, draft pick and their highest draft pick, just coming out there and balling. So many of these guys are playing well. I talked a little bit about the fact that, you know, Isaac McNeely's playing well, but I'm talking about all these guys that had these reputations, are just coming out there and living up. Malik Thomas, the draft pick, the kid from Arkansas who, lasted until the second round, gets picked up by the Cleveland Cavaliers early in the second round. Malik Thomas comes out, has 20 points last night. It's unbelievable. Michael Brown Jr., after playing limited minutes in his first game, comes out for his second game of the Summer League against the Nets, scores 20 points in a comeback win and helps the Brooklyn Nets win. Like, everybody's balling. Like, if you don't watch the NBA Summer League, you can watch all these games either on the ESPN family of networks or on Prime Video. If you love basketball, you should get out there and watch these teams play. These guys are hooping at a very high level. And if you're starved for sports, like for me, I love it. I watch the NBA Summer League every year. But the level of play that's being displayed right now is unbelievable. Ade Mara, the big man from Michigan, he's playing well. Morez Johnson Jr. in his first game for the Dallas Mavericks had like 27 points, 8 boards, like 5 blocks. Unbelievable. Yaxel Lindeborg is shooting like 80% from 3 as Yaxel's going out there with the Golden State Warriors balling. You just go down the list. You go down the list. It doesn't matter what team you are looking at. I saw Koa Pete goes off for the Phoenix Suns, has like 19 points in his first game. These guys are dominating the Summer League. And I don't say that they're going to go, I'm not saying that they're going to go into the regular NBA and they're just going to become the best players in the league. But what I am saying, all these guys are going to impact their teams and their franchises immediately. Like, these guys are going to come in and pretty much be immediate role players and immediate rotation players immediately. Like, I feel like Yaxel going into Golden State when you're playing next to Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Kristaps Porzingis, the fact that Yaxel's going to be able to go out there and be like the number 3 guy, and Draymond is, of course, as well. If he's the number 3 guy, the number 4 guy, Yaxel's going to eat immediately. Immediately. He's going to be better than Jonathan Kuminga was last year as like a 3rd or 4th year player, whatever year it was for Kuminga. Like, Yaxel's going to be better than Kuminga pretty much immediately. A guy who's looking for $25 million a year, by the way, and Jonathan Kuminga. But, like, these dudes are just playing. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I've watched so many great performances. I can't even remember them all. It's been mind-blowing. You know, and all the Louisville guys are playing well. Shout out to Javon Hadley, who's starting for the Miami Heat as well as Ryan Conwell. Hadley's not putting up huge numbers, but Hadley is being Hadley in his role. You know, great defense, rebounding the ball, hitting open threes when he gets the opportunity to. Just playing smart basketball. So many of these guys are playing well. Chucky Hepburn, I saw him. He was playing well for the Toronto Raptors the other night. But all these guys are just hooping and playing ball, and it's just the NBA, the overall product of the NBA is definitely going to be bolstered by these young guys coming in. And it just speaks to how good college basketball was this past year. Well, us as college basketball fans, right now, we are being treated to a golden age of basketball right now, man. And it's super exciting. Love to see it. But let's go ahead. Let's get back to the Game Day Men's Health text line. I want to make sure I read all you guys' texts before we get out of here. Texter says, Raashaan, see you in Las Vegas for the players' early tourney over the Thanksgiving. Will I see you in Las Vegas for the Players Air Tourney? I don't know. That's a great question. I've never been to Vegas, and I've always wanted to go. I'm a big Raiders fan, so I've been trying to get to Vegas to watch a Raiders game. That's been something that I've been trying to get planned. So, I mean, maybe I'll just go ahead. Maybe we'll see if the Raiders are playing during the Players Air Tournament. Maybe the Raiders will be playing a game that weekend. I can get a double dip. I can watch the Cardinals versus Texas Tech, and hopefully the Cardinals versus St. John's. Go out there, watch those games, and then turn around and watch my Raiders play, see what they can do. That would be fun. That would be awesome. I would love to do that, but I can't wait for it. I know that. I know that, you know, with the announcement of Marcus Spears Jr. Heading to Texas, I know that's not going to be part of the Players Era, but the Louisville non-conference schedule once again just gets bolstered. They're going to play Texas in the ACC SEC Challenge, and now with Marcus Spears Jr., like I said, the number 1 player in the 2027 class, moving to Texas this year, Texas is going to be probably a top 5 team coming into the Yum Center in early December. So that game, I believe, is going to be going down right before the U of L UK game. I think it's going to be probably the weekend before. It might be the same week of. I'm not sure on that. I'll have to check the schedule to just see how that whole thing works out. But Louisville's non-conference schedule is legit. It's legit. I cannot wait. It definitely sucks that Donnie Freeman, kind of the do-it-all forward for St. John's that came over as a transfer from Syracuse. They announced that he has a knee injury and he's going to be out for the season. So that sucks for Rick Pitino and crew. That definitely takes a little starch out of the sails for the St. John's squad. But they still have a lot of talent. I think they'll be okay. But that definitely does hurt. We'll see what happens with that. Good text. Texter also says, Raashaan, no questions today. Just want to say I always enjoy hearing your comments about Louisville basketball. Hope you're allowed to attend some of the practices. Thanks, Red Zeppelin. Hey, Red, I appreciate you. Thank you. I love Louisville basketball. I'm going to try to be there. I know that the women's team just sent the media a notice that they're going to allow an opportunity to check out the ladies in a practice coming up. I believe might be even Monday or Tuesday of next week. I guess as they get ready and prepare for their own foreign trip. I'm going to try to see if I can get over there and see what Jeff Walls and company are doing. I'm super, super excited about Taj Roberts, McKinley Randolph, and the rest of those folks, Amari Berry, Isla, Alif Istanbulogu, and the rest of the team. I've heard good things about Grayson Bugwa and what she's doing. So, if it's a basketball, whether it's the men or the women's, I want to get over there. Hopefully, Coach Kelsey, if you're listening, you want to invite me out to a practice, I'll come out there, and I won't give any specifics, but I'll just rave about how great it is. So if you want to invite me over, I'm definitely game. I love the game of basketball. I used to sit there and just watch games in those AAU tournaments from basically noon to midnight. I am just a sponge for the game of basketball. So, Red, I appreciate your comments. Thank you for that. I just love basketball. I love hoops, man. I literally never get enough of it. So, we'll see. Texter texts in, says, good morning, Wake Up 502. Main event. Where's Mitch McConnell culture? That's funny. Leave Mitch alone. Mitch is out there. He's not, they talk about what's his health like? I don't know. He's not a zombie. I saw somebody put out a meme that Mitch is a zombie. Mitch is not a zombie. He's okay. Says, will the Louisville basketball games in the Bahamas be going on TV? Yeah, they have not mentioned exactly how you will be able to watch the Louisville basketball games in the Bahamas, but whether they will be on, ACC Network, Network Extra, which is basically ESPN streaming, and where you're going to have to watch them on like an ESPN Plus or something like that, or whether they're going to be broadcast on YouTube through the Floyd Media Network. I don't know how that's going to happen as of yet. They haven't announced it. From what I understand, they should announce television rights or however you'll be able to watch that this week. From what I understand, they should be coming out to announce that. So it's going to be coming up soon. I mean, heck, the games are going to be here in the next 17 days. So they've got to make those announcements pretty quickly. You will be able to watch them, but I'm not sure how as of yet. But of course, follow me at Raashaan, RAASHAAN. I'm going to, of course, share the links out, and I'm going to give my thoughts. I'm going to definitely make sure that I'm available watching both of those games. I believe the game the first day is going to be at noon, and then the game on Wednesday is going to be at like 2 p.m. So they're both going to be early, like midday type games. So mark your calendars accordingly on the 28th and 29th. You might want to just take off from work and do half days those 2 days so you can get somewhere, watch those games at a local watering hole. Just make sure you can check it out. I'm definitely going to do some breakdown 502 after those games, because we're gonna have to chop it up, y'all. We're gonna talk about what we see and talk about who made the big who had the big performances, who does the Russ Smith in the Bahamas and goes for like 30 against the the bellhop and the cabbie. We're gonna have to see who does that. Lastly, Texter says, so is this a cat fight? Bam Adebayo approached Tyler Hero about comments the guard made critiquing the center on social media and slapped him. Yeah, so I heard that he did basically the Will Smith to Chris Rock out there in Vegas. Bam Adebayo confronted Tyler Hero, and those two got into it. Tyler Hero, of course, just recently got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks in that Giannis deal, and those two got into it out in Vegas. Crazy. I hate that for them, but yeah, it kind of went down a little bit. So, hey, it is what it is. Everybody just kind of, it's hot outside. Everybody is heated. And so, hopefully they're good to go. But hey, I'll tell you what, man, as long as while we're on the topic of NBA free agency, I'm going to just be real with you. Shout out to the Boston Celtics. They wanted to go out there and just kind of make sure that everybody forgot about how dumb the Dallas Mavericks were for trading for Luka Doncic. Absolutely ridiculous trade with the Boston Celtics sending Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George and, a cup of sugar. Like, ridiculous trade that the Celtics did that. I feel like because Jaylen Brown is a guy who likes to talk, he's a guy who is, super intelligent guy, super high IQ, gives his thoughts on things. He's very opinionated. I feel like he must have rubbed some people in the Celtics front office the wrong way, and just basically those guys want to get him out of town because that's the only way and the only reason you can trade a guy who had darn near an MVP season for the Celtics, helped the Celtics stay afloat with Jason Tatum basically out for the first 60, 70 games of the year, helped the Celtics franchise stay afloat, win 50 plus games, like I said, in his best career season, and you traded him to your biggest rival in the Philadelphia 76ers for an old, broke up, injured Paul George and a couple of picks. Like, literally, in my opinion, you made Philly more than likely, in my personal opinion, you look at the East, you tell me who the best teams in the East are. Can you argue that anybody is better than Philadelphia in the East right now? Can you argue against it? I mean, especially if Embiid's now healthy. Because Joel came back at the end of the year and played pretty well, even though he looked like, of course he was out of shape. He got a little tired, but he was healthy, and now that you have a healthy Joel back, you have everything, that those guys can do at the guard spots already. And now you add to it Jaylen Brown, who can be kind of your go-to creator with the chips down. That's going to free up Joel to be, take something off his plate. You're going to be able to take a little bit off Tyrese Maxey's plate. VJ Edgecombe is going to be able to have more space for him to work. I'm just shocked that the Boston Celtics made that trade. It's a dumb trade. They literally, traded themselves into, in my personal opinion, moving to third, fourth, fifth, in the East. I don't, you are leaning very heavily into this Derek White, Peyton Pritchard bucket and just hoping that Tatum can do everything. Like for Hugo Gomez and these guys, like, I just don't see it. It is what it is. But, I know that they brought over Mitchell Robinson from the Knicks, but the Celtics, to me, they ended their own window of championship. I don't think they're a championship team anymore. Like, I really don't. Like, they're going to try to go to this small ball. They try to say that, well, having Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, you're taking up too much of your cap. You have two guys taking up 70% of your cap, and you can't win like that. You need more depth. Dude, you never want to get worse in the starting lineup. That's the whole thing that people always said. When you're making a trade, when you're making that deal, is your team better? Have you made your team better by making this trade? And there's no way in which you can argue that the Celtics are better now than they were before. You just can't. Like, it's not there. Like, Paul George, fine, Paul George was not worth a trade when he got traded for all those picks, leaving the OKC Thunder for the LA Clippers. And we know how that trade turned out. And it's like, this is like fast forward like 4, 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been. And you're trading again, and you're trading for a top 5 player in the NBA. Are you kidding me? Like, just ridiculous. I can't wait for the NBA season to get started. And another team I have to say I don't know what they're doing. While I've seen other teams get better, and I've seen, I think Kawhi is going to play for the Raptors, who had a very good season last year. I've seen all these teams go out there and try to get better, and then you have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who basically have done nothing. They just sat there, announced that they're going to re-sign James Harden. They just, like Jay talked about, Donovan Mitchell just signed a 4-year, $273 million deal. But the Cavaliers haven't done anything. Yes, I know they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks, but the Knicks are going out there. They're the champs. So Knicks don't need to necessarily do a bunch, but I think they did a great deal by getting Andre Drummond. I think that Drummond has a lot that he can do. He played very well while Joel Embiid was out. But I don't know what Cleveland's doing. Like I like Malik Thomas. That's been a great addition. It looking like Malik is playing very well, but that's another kind of undersized guard. He's not really truly a wing. He's more of a 6'3", 6'4" guard. So You have that with Donovan Mitchell. You have that with James Harden. So I don't know about playing all three of those guys together. But I don't know what Cleveland's doing. I feel like this coming season, I'm probably going to end up watching more Brooklyn Nets games than I do Cleveland Cavaliers games. And I'm just going to watch Michael and see what they're doing. I like the young Nets setup. That they have Michael Porter Jr., they have Julius Randle. Michael's going to run that team. Igor Joman looks like he's made a big jump from year 1 to year 2. They have a lot of talent on that team. So I feel like I'm going to probably watch more Nets than Cleveland just because Cleveland is going to be solid, but are they better than the 4th roster right now, especially with Giannis moving to the Heat? I'm not saying the Heat are great, but I feel like Giannis, they're going there with some of the veterans that they'll get. Their roster is going to be just as good as Cleveland's, if not better. I still don't believe in Evan Mobley, and I just don't think that you can have Mobley and Allen together and be a serious contender. This team almost lost in 7 games in the first round to the Raptors. They were able to get it done. Shout out to them getting it done there, and then going 7 games against the Pistons and getting it done there and getting to the finals. I give them credit for getting there, but they could have lost in the first round. So I don't know. We'll see. I could go on. We got plenty of time to talk NBA, but I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Shout out to Michael Brown Jr. He's making big plays. You all continue to watch them. There is a lot of basketball to be played, and there's a lot happening on the course at the NBA Summer League. So make sure you continue to check those out. I know there's that schedule still upcoming. Saturday schedule, you have Ryan Conwell getting it started today at 3:30. They're going to be on Prime. You're going to have Michael versus Isaac McNeely and the Hawks, the Nets versus Hawks, 8 p.m. tonight on ESPN. And then you're going to have on Prime Video Chucky Hepburn taking on the Rockets at 9:30. So those are the games upcoming. Thanks so much to everybody for listening. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Jay Haas, thank you for checking in. This is Raashaan Myers. This is Wake Up 502. We'll be back next week on the Big X Sports Radio, and check you out then.